The first work that I will talk about is The Sunflower Seeds by Weiwei from 2010 to 2011. Its medium is sculpted and painted porcelain, and it is located inside the Tate Modern, London. But before I jump into details, let's talk about the artist. Ai Weiwei was born on August 27, 1957, in Beijing, China. He is currently 62 years old, and he is married to Lu Qing. He is a contemporary artist and an activist, but also a writer and a movie maker. He is known for criticizing the corruption of the Chinese government and the need for democracy and human rights in China. In China, his name appears as an illegal word if someone tries to research about him on the internet. When he was 1 year old, his family was sent to a labor camp in Beijing. Three years later, in 1976, they were exiled to Xinheshi until he turned 19 years old and returned to Beijing, when the Cultural Revolution had ended and Mao Zedong had died. In 1978, Ai Weiwei studied animation in the Beijing Film Academy. In 1981, he moved to the US. He lived in Philadelphia and San Francisco, where he studied English at the University of Pennsylvania and the University of California, Berkeley. Then, he moved to New York City and studied at Parsons School of Design. In 1983, he attended the Arts Students League and dropped out 3 years later. He began to make a living out of drawing street portraits. In 1999, he moved to Beijing and built his first architectural project. Ai Weiwei has been arrested multiple times due to his political activism for democracy and human rights. The excuse used to detain him for a long time is tax evasion. Now let's talk about the work. First, the farming content. There are over 100 million super realistic porcelain sunflower seeds, carefully placed on the ground on the Tate Hall, forming the rectangle, and they originally weighed 150 tons, where people could walk on, but it became dangerous because of the rise of ceramic dust. Now I'm going to add some context related to the creation of these sunflower seeds. They are created in a town called Jingdeshan, about 100 kilometers from Beijing, also known as the porcelain capital, where people used to make porcelain bowls or vases for the emperor's court. This town has been producing pottery for nearly 2,000 years. Porcelain is a symbol of imperial culture in China, and it was first produced during the Han Dynasty, 200 years before Common Era, and mastered during the Tang Dynasty. It's made by heating white clay to over 1200 degrees Celsius. Ai Weiwei provided a job to over 1600 workers to create these handmade porcelain seeds. The hot white clay is poured into molds to take the form of a seed flower. Then it is taken to the painters. These painters require 3 to 5 precise brush strokes for each seed, and at the end of the day, they weigh the seeds they have painted to receive their payment. Some families take seeds home to paint during their free time. After painting, they're packed and sent to Tate Modern. The function is to serve as a critic of the political and economic injustice in China. The visual order and uniformity of the million seeds make it difficult to appreciate an individual seed. This alludes to a critic of the acceptance of speech suppression in China. Mao Zedong was depicted as the sun by communist propaganda, and the citizens were depicted as sunflower seeds. I understand this piece of art as a message that communicates that if people unite, the leader would be outpowered. Also, these seeds serve as a symbol of hope during difficult times. Sunflower seeds bring the artist a memory of his childhood. He says that even the poorest in China shared sunflowers among friends as a treat. The hard work and fair payment of the Jingdeshan artisans serve to examine how our consumption of foreign-made products affect the lives of others across the world, and as a rejection to the negative connotation of the term "made in China," always seen as cheap and fast. The next piece that I'll talk about is the funeral banner of Lady Day, 180 before Common Era. Its medium is painted silk and the coffins are made out of wood. It was discovered in 1972 during the time of Mao Zedong's Cultural Revolution at MAWANGDUI, Hunan province by a team digging an air-attack shelter, and its current location is the Hunan Provincial Museum in CHANGSHA. First, let's talk about the form of our tomb. Lady Day's coffin was covered by 4 nesting coffins, each designed to fit inside one another, and they were sealed with thick layers of raw lacquer. a liquid that tries to form a hard protective layer for wood. The coffins are inside an enormous inverted pyramid, over 12 meters deep. Then, the coffins are covered by 5 tons of charcoal and a moisture layer of over a meter thick. After this, the empty space is covered with soil and capped with a pile of over 50 meters high of earth. The funeral banner was found on top of the innermost of the 4 nesting coffins. The T-shaped banner is divided into 4 horizontal registers: the heavenly realm, the Lady Day and her attendants, the body of Lady Day with mourners, and the underworld. The long curved dragon that frames the register is called Lung. Their white and pink bodies loop through a body, a flat jade disc to represent the sky. In the heavenly realm, the top register, we can see 2 men facing each other, and above them, an anthropomorphic figure, a deity with human head and a dragon body. These men are the guards of the gates of the heavenly realm. We can also see a moon and a sun, which symbolizes a pure and spiritual realm. In the next register, we can see Lady Day on a platform with 3 servants behind her and 2 in front of her. She is using a silk robe, which embroidered design is similar to the one on this banner. She is leaning on a walking stick, the one found inside her coffin. This is an image of her enjoying her comforts of the tomb as she ascends towards the afterlife. This register is interesting because it features the earliest known portrait in Chinese painting. The next scene takes place in a mourning hall, a place for funeral rituals. In the midrun, we can appreciate 2 rows of people lamenting the death of Lady Di. On the background, we can see Lady Di wrapped on her silk robe, and we can also see vessels to offer her food and wine. This scene is really interesting because it shows the illusions of depth and space. The artist made the vessels on the foreground bigger than the ones on the background to create the illusion of space, and he or she also overlapped the borders to represent depth. The next register is populated by 2 giant blackfish, a red snake, a pair of blue goats, and an unidentified early deity. The deity appears to hold up the floor of the mourning hall, while the 2 fish cross to form a circle beneath him. The beings in the underworld symbolize water and earth, and they indicate an underground domain below the human world. The banner's function is to help recognize the death during the funerary ceremonies, but also to lead the soul to the afterlife. The giant elf aids this purpose, but its main purpose is to preserve Lady Day's body. Now let's add more context. Lady Day's body was found amazingly preserved. Her over 2,000 years dead body still had plastic flesh, intact organs, red blood vessels, hair, and her joints were still flexible. Also, the wig that she was wearing didn't decompose. This really scared the heck out of the Chinese scientists. A body takes between 8 to 12 years to decompose to bones, and this lady's corpse was practically fresh. The Chinese pathologists did not want to take the responsibility of examining an ancient corpse because it was not a good time to fail. Premier Zhou was a powerful man that expected success in every aspect, and he told them not to touch ancient bodies unless they were completely sure that the bodies were not going to be destroyed and that it was disrespectful to their ancestors and the country. But a junior scientist called Pam Longchong took the challenge, and he discovered some interesting stuff with an autopsy. Lady Di was the wife of a marquis, a nobleman. She was a fat lady with cardiac problems. She used to celebrate with enormous banquets every day, due to the peace and prosperity that the Han Dynasty had provided. She would eat a lot of fat every day and never exercise. She had blocked arteries and a gallstone that blocked a bile duct. The intense pain sent her to cardiac arrest and died. We know she was fat because of the wrinkles on her skin. But how was her body preserved so well? It is believed that the cold temperatures of her coffin served as a natural refrigerator that helped to maintain her body fresh. Also, she was covered by 20 layers of silk, which suffocated bacteria inside the body. And before her coffin was sealed, a mysterious red liquid was poured inside. This liquid contained acidic cinnabar. This mineral is often used in skin ointments.